The sound of mist dripping from the leaves, a sound that used to be a source of comfort, now sends shivers down my spine. It's a constant reminder of the day I saw something in the whole rainforest, something that defied all logic and reason. Something that has made me question everything I thought I knew about the world. I was a ranger, I was a protector, but I was also a fool. A man who had wandered into something that was better left unseen. My name is Caleb Hudson, but most people call me Cal. I'm a park ranger in the Pacific Northwest, and I've spent most of my life in the wilderness, surrounded by the beauty and the solitude of the forests. I've hiked countless trails, charted hidden rivers, and slept under a canopy of stars. But there was always something about the whole rainforest that had a unique pull on me. Its ancient trees, its lush vegetation, its perpetual mist, it all seemed to be part of another world. And I always felt like it had secrets that were waiting to be uncovered. And that was my biggest mistake. I've always been drawn to the untamed parts of nature, to the places that are untouched by civilization, and for years, I was content in the solitude of the wilderness, finding a sense of peace in the quiet corners of the world, feeling like I was part of it all. My job as a ranger was not just a way to earn a living. It was a calling, a way to connect with the natural world, a way to be part of its secrets. But that day, my understanding of the world was shattered by a single encounter with something that did not belong. It was late autumn. The air was cold and damp, the leaves were falling from the trees, and the forest floor was covered with a thick layer of moss. I was tracking a wounded elk, following its trail through the dense undergrowth, hoping to find it before it succumbed to its injuries. I was alone, yes, but I was used to it, comfortable in my solitude, confident in my knowledge of the wilderness. The forest was always my home, and I always felt safe in its embrace. Until that day, the mist was thick that morning, a veil that seemed to shroud the forest in an ethereal glow, and the trees seemed taller, more imposing, their shadows dancing like living things. The air was heavy, almost suffocating, filled with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, and the silence was broken only by the soft sound of the mist dripping from the trees. It was a beautiful scene, yes, but there was also something ominous about it, a sense that I was being watched, a feeling that I was not alone. I followed the elk's trail deeper into the forest, my senses heightened, my mind focused on my task, trying to ignore the feeling of unease that was growing stronger with each step that I took. I had seen all kinds of animals in the wilderness, but this trail felt different, as if something was following me, or as if I was not in my world anymore. It was like I was an intruder in a sacred place, and the forest was warning me to leave, and then I saw it. A massive figure standing in the shadows, its form obscured by the mist, its size almost unbelievable. It was tall, at least 8 feet. Tall, with thick fur that was matted and tangled, and with a muscular build that was both powerful and menacing. It was like something from a different time, a creature that should not exist, a monster that had emerged from the depths of the ancient forest, and the shadows that surrounded it were like a dark veil, protecting it from the world. I did not understand what I was seeing, but I knew that I was facing something very dangerous. My heart started to race, a cold dread washing over me as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. But it was impossible. I tried to rationalize it, to find a scientific explanation, but my mind refused to believe anything that made sense. The creature was too big, its form too grotesque, its presence too unnatural. It was a vision from my nightmares, and it was standing right there, in front of my very eyes. Then it moved, its head turning towards me, and I saw its eyes. They were glowing red, not a natural glow, but a fierce, malevolent light that seemed to pierce through my very soul. And they were intelligent. I knew that this creature was more than just an animal. It was a sentient being, a force of nature, and it was looking directly at me. It was like it had been waiting for me. Then it growled, a bone-vibrating sound that seemed to shake the very ground beneath my feet. The sound was not like anything I had ever heard before. It was a mix of a roar and a growl, a guttural rumble that seemed to resonate deep within my bones. And then it vanished into the mist, as if it had never been there, leaving only a silence, a sense of unease, and a lingering fear that I would carry with me for the rest of my life. And I knew that I had stumbled upon something that I could never explain. I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. I just ran. I fled, leaving the wounded elk behind, my mind consumed by a primal fear, my body fueled by adrenaline. I ran as fast as I could, not stopping, not looking back, until I was far from that clearing, far from the shadows, far from the entity, and back in familiar ground. I never felt more alone in my entire life. I didn't report what I saw. Who would believe me? They would think I was crazy, that I was delusional, that I had seen things that did not exist. I was a park ranger, a man of science and reason, and I was supposed to be an expert of the wilderness, and my reports would destroy everything that I had worked to achieve. So I kept my silence. I kept my secret, but I could not forget it. And now, sometimes, late at night, when the world is silent and the shadows are long, I see those red eyes reflecting in my daughter's picture frame, and I know it's still out there. And I think it was looking for me. The memory of those red eyes, piercing through the mist, still haunts me, a constant reminder of the creature that I saw in the whole rainforest, a reminder that there are things in this world that are beyond our understanding, beyond our control. I try to convince myself that it was just a hallucination, a product of exhaustion, of stress, of too much time alone in the wilderness. But deep down, I know that it was real, that it was a glimpse into something that was not meant to be seen, and that it was waiting for me. And the fear, the despair, and the terror, they will always be there, a constant companion in my life. I've always been a man of the wilderness, a protector of the natural world, someone who valued solitude and independence. My job as a park ranger was not just a career. It was also a calling, a way to connect with the land, to safeguard its secrets, and to protect its inhabitants. I always thought that I was strong, that I was fearless, that I was prepared for any challenge that the wilderness could throw at me. But that day, in that clearing, I realized that I was wrong, that my strength was just a facade, that my courage was nothing more than a mask, and that my knowledge of the forest was insignificant when facing something beyond its normal laws. I was not the protector. I was the victim. I've always prided myself on my ability to remain calm in the face of danger, to think clearly, and to act decisively. But when I saw that creature, I lost all sense of reason, all control, all logic. My training, my experience, my instincts, none of them mattered. I was reduced to a primitive being, driven only by the primal instinct for survival. I was not brave. I was not fearless. I was just a man, facing something that was beyond my understanding. And the terror that I felt in that moment is something that has followed me ever since. I try to be a good father to my daughter, to be a strong role model, to teach her the importance of courage and resilience, but I carry this fear with me, a constant reminder of my own limitations, of my own vulnerabilities. And now, I see that I am not the man that I was before, and that the man that I am now is a man that is deeply and utterly broken. And I'm starting to fear that that darkness, that fear is being passed down to her. The whole rainforest, which I had once considered a place of beauty and peace, is now a place of dread, a symbol of the unknown, a reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of the natural world. The mist, which had always seemed ethereal and calming, now feels oppressive, suffocating, a veil that hides something that should not be seen. And the sounds of the forest, which had once been a source of comfort, now feel like whispers, moans, and groans of entities that I cannot understand. My safe place had now become a place of terror, a reminder of my own weakness. I've always dismissed the old local legends, the stories about creatures that roam the forests, about beings that are not of this world. I considered them just old wives' tales, the product of overactive imaginations, of too much time alone in the wilderness. But now I wonder if they were based on truth, if the creature that I saw was part of a greater reality, a force that had been lurking in the shadows for centuries, and if those stories are part of a long chain of encounters with something that we cannot rationalize or understand. The legends now seem more real than anything else. I see that red light sometimes, reflected in the glass of my daughter's picture frame, a fleeting glimpse of something that should not be there, a constant reminder that the entity is still out there, that it is still watching me, that it is still waiting for my return. And it is a reminder that I am no longer safe, that the wilderness that was my home is now the place where my greatest fear resides. And I know that it is only a matter of time before that creature returns. My home has become a hunting ground, and I am the prey. The black, glassy rock in my hand was now warm to the touch, its surface smooth and almost pulsating, and I could feel its energy coursing through my veins, a strange mix of fear and determination, of dread and a strange sense of peace. The red glow in my daughter's picture frame was gone, yes, but the memory of those eyes, the image of that monstrous creature, was still there, haunting my thoughts, a constant reminder of the battle that I was about to face. The whispers in my mind had become silent, but I knew that they would return, that the entity was still waiting, patiently, for my return, and I had to be ready to face it when the time came. And the weight of that knowledge was a heavy burden to carry. As I researched the ancient symbols that I had seen carved on the trees, I came across a story, a local legend that spoke of a powerful entity, a being of darkness that was said to dwell in the heart of the Yellowstone wilderness, an entity that had been worshipped by ancient civilizations, an entity that was said to have the power to manipulate time and space, to twist reality, and to lure unsuspecting victims into its web. The legend claimed that this entity had created the trail, that it had used it to lure people into its realm, and that it was still waiting dormant for the right moment to return to its former power. And I felt like that moment was getting closer, and I was the key to that return. It was a terrifying thought, and I knew that I was facing something that was beyond my comprehension, beyond my control, and more powerful than anything that I had ever imagined. I also remembered my grandmother, a woman of wisdom and folklore, a woman who had always been fascinated by the mysteries of nature, and who had always warned me about the dangers of seeking out things that were better left undisturbed. She had told me stories of places where the veil between realities was thin, of areas that were filled with a dark energy, and of forces that were not meant to be challenged. And I remembered, with unnerving clarity, her words, "Some doors are better left closed, Finnegan, because the darkness that lies behind them will never let you go." It was as if she was trying to warn me, as if she had seen something that I was now about to face, and as if she knew the terror that was waiting for me. And that terror was now a constant companion. My attempts to warn others about the dangers of Yellowstone had all been in vain. My reports were dismissed as ramblings of a troubled mind. My fears were ignored. My warnings were silenced. And the hikers continued to disappear, their stories fading away into the collective memory, their faces becoming nothing more than a footnote in the history of the park. And the weight of that failure, the knowledge that I could not save others from the same fate that I had barely escaped, was a burden that I was carrying with me, a constant reminder that I was not strong enough to break free from the cycle of darkness that had been claiming lives for centuries. The voices of the missing hikers were now joining the whispers that I could hear in my head. I started to see shadows, not just in my dreams, but also in the waking world, fleeting glimpses of distorted forms that were moving in the periphery of my vision, as if the darkness was now starting to seep into my reality. I started to feel a strange sensation of disorientation, a feeling that time itself was becoming warped, as if the present was starting to merge with the past, and the future was becoming a terrifying blend of the two. The line between reality and nightmares was fading, and I was now trapped in a cycle of confusion, of dread, of terror. I knew that I had to make a choice, and I had to make it soon. I could either give in to the fear, surrender to the darkness, and let the entity claim me as its own, or I could embrace my destiny, return to Yellowstone, and face whatever was waiting for me there, even if it meant facing death itself. And as the voices grew louder, and as the shadows grew darker, I realized that I was no longer just a cartographer. I was now also a soldier, a warrior, and I had to prepare for battle. I knew, deep down, that I had to return to the wilderness. My fate was now tied to that trail. My research also uncovered a ritual, an ancient ceremony that was said to be used to open the gateway to the other dimension, a series of actions that were designed to weaken the veil between realities, to allow the entities of the darkness to cross over into our world. The ritual involved the use of symbols, of stones, of a specific location, and as I read the description, I knew, with a chilling certainty, that the clearing with the ancient stones was not just a random place. It was the heart of the ritual, the center of the entity's power, and I was now being drawn back to that place to play my part in its completion. My past was catching up to me, and I was about to discover what destiny was planning for me. I was also starting to understand that the trail was not just a path. It was also a connection, a link between different realities, a conduit for the energy of the entity. And I had picked up a piece of that connection, the black, glassy rock that I now carried with me, a constant reminder of the darkness that was now a part of me, a constant reminder of the doom that was waiting for me. And as I stared at the rock, I had a revelation. The darkness was not out there. The darkness was inside me, and my real battle was not to escape, but to understand it. And it was then that I knew that I had to return to Yellowstone and face the entity that was trying to consume me. It was a battle that I had to face alone. I had been running away, but now it was time for me to go back. The familiar path into the whole rainforest twisted and contorted before me, the trees growing taller and more menacing, their branches intertwined to form a dense canopy that blocked out the pale moonlight. The mist swirled around me, thick and suffocating, its tendrils reaching out like grasping claws, and the air grew colder, heavier, filled with the scent of damp earth and decay, a chilling reminder of the creature that was waiting for me. The forest was no longer a place of beauty. It was now a reflection of the turmoil in my soul, a manifestation of the fear that was consuming me, and a clear warning of the danger that was looming ahead. My familiar world was slowly becoming the world of my nightmares, and I knew I was now about to confront a horror that was beyond my comprehension. As I moved deeper into the forest, I started to hear the whispers again, now clearer, more defined, a chorus of voices that seemed to be calling my name, beckoning me towards the clearing, to the place where the entity had been waiting for centuries. My hand tightened around the black, glassy rock, and the rock pulsed with a warm, comforting light, a reminder of the power that was now flowing through me. I was no longer the same man that had fled from that place weeks before. I was now a warrior, a protector, a force that was ready to face the darkness. And as I walked towards it, I was ready for whatever the forest had to show me. The trail began to glow, a faint, ethereal light that seemed to emanate from the ground itself, as if the forest was guiding my path, leading me towards the center. of its power. And as I followed that light, I started to notice that the trees around me were changing. They were not just ancient and gnarled. They were now also marked with the same strange symbols that I had seen before, the same symbols that were now engraved in my soul. And in each of those symbols, I could see my own past, my own present, and my own future, all twisted, all contorted, all leading towards the same destination, clearing where my journey would reach its end. It was as if I was now walking. On my own tombstone, I reached the clearing, and the ancient stones were glowing with an intense red light, a beacon of malevolent energy that seemed to pulse with an ancient evil power. The shadows were moving, dancing, their forms more defined now, taking on the shape of monstrous creatures, reflections of my own fears, of my own doubts. And in the center of the clearing, I saw it, the creature. But it was not just the same figure that I had seen before. It was now larger, more menacing, more powerful, and I could feel its presence reaching out to me, as if it was trying to claim me as its own. And then the unexpected happened. The creature spoke, its voice a deep, guttural rumble that seemed to shake the very ground beneath my feet. But the words were not just random sounds. They were sentences, a message that was both familiar and unnerving. "You cannot escape your destiny, Cal," it said, its voice a distorted echo of my own. "You are part of me, and I am part of you. We have always been connected since the beginning of time. It was not a trap, it was a reunion. And now it is time for you to come home." And in that moment, a horrifying realization crashed over me. I looked at my hands, at my uniform, at my reflection in the distorted images of the stones, and I saw that I was no longer just Finnegan O'Malley. I was now also the entity I was. Also the monster. I was also the darkness that I had been fighting against. And I finally understood the true nature of the beast. It was me, or at least a version of myself that had been waiting in the shadows for so long. It was not a beast. It was also a reflection of myself. The trail that I had followed was not just a path through the forest. It was also a path through my own soul, a journey into the depths of my own darkness. The entity that I had seen was not just a monster. It was also a reflection of my own fears, of my own doubts, of my own insecurities. I had been running from my own demons, and it had been chasing me all along. And my destiny was now to face that truth. The real monster was not out there. It was inside me. And I could no longer run away. My breath hitched in my throat. A sharp, ragged gasp as the creature's words echoed in the silent clearing. A terrifying revelation that shattered everything I thought I knew about myself, about the world, about the nature of my journey. The monster that I had been running from, the entity that I had been trying to defeat, was not a separate being. It was a part of me, a reflection of my own darkness, a manifestation of my own fears. My hand tightened around the black, glassy rock, the rock pulsing with a frantic, erratic energy, a mirror of the chaos that was now unfolding within my soul. The world around me seemed to blur. The trees seemed to twist and groan. The shadows seemed to reach out like grasping claws, and my heart pounded in my chest as I struggled to process the truth that was now staring me in the face, the creature. My twisted reflection started to move, its steps slow and deliberate, its form shifting and contorting, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light that seemed to pierce through my very soul. Its voice, a distorted echo of my own, spoke again, its words a chilling mix of fear and acceptance, of dread and longing. "You are part of me, Cal," it hissed, its voice a guttural rumble that seemed to vibrate deep within my bones. "We are connected, bound together by the darkness, forever trapped in this cycle of fear and pain. It is time to embrace your destiny, to surrender to the truth, to accept your place by my side." And that was the message that I had been running away from. And now that message had finally caught up with me. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the impossible, trying to reconcile the knowledge that I was both the hunter and the hunted, the victim and the oppressor. I had been so focused on the external monster that I had ignored the darkness that was within me, the fears that I had been trying to suppress, the doubts that I had been trying to silence. And now I was being forced to face that truth, to accept the totality of myself, the darkness and the light, the good and the evil, all that I had been trying to avoid for so long. I looked at my hands, at my uniform, at my reflection in the distorted images of the stones, and I saw that they were all tainted by the darkness, that I was no longer just Caleb Hudson, park ranger. I was now also a reflection of the entity, a part of the creature that I had been fighting against, a pawn in a game that was far beyond my comprehension. The world around me seemed to shift and distort, the trees seemed to sway and groan, and the shadows seemed to take on a life of their own, as if they were responding to the chaos that was unfolding within me. The familiar was no longer familiar, and the strange was now a part of me. The creature, my monstrous reflection, reached out its hand towards me, its fingers long and twisted, its touch promising both power and corruption, an invitation to join its ranks, to embrace the darkness. That was now part of my soul. And for a moment, I felt a strange pull, a seductive allure that was threatening to consume me, to drag me into the abyss of its power. I was tempted, so very tempted, to surrender, to accept the fact that I was now the monster that I had been hunting. And I was about to fall into that trap. My breath came in short, ragged gasps. My heart pounded in my chest, and my body trembled uncontrollably as I struggled to resist the influence of the entity, to fight against the darkness that was now trying to claim me as its own. I had run for so long. I had been hiding from my true nature and from the truth that I was meant to face. I was not just a protector. I was also a destroyer. And now I had the chance to embrace both. The temptation was so great that I could almost feel the darkness taking over. And it was in that moment that I was about to give in. The black, glassy rock in my hand pulsed again, its light growing stronger, and I remembered my daughter, her bright eyes, her infectious laughter, her unwavering love, and I realized that I could not give in, that I had to keep fighting, not just for myself, but also for her, for her future, for her chance to live in a world that was free from the darkness that was now threatening to consume us all. And the temptation suddenly faded, leaving only the feeling of responsibility, of duty, of the absolute need to fight and to win. And then I saw it. In the distorted reflection of the stones, I noticed that the creature that was standing in front of me was not just a manifestation of my fears. It was also a reflection of my choices, of my failures, of my regrets, and of the darkness that had been growing inside me for so long. I was facing myself, and it was time for me to make a choice between the darkness and the light. And I knew, with a certainty that defied all doubt, what that choice was going to be. The creature, my monstrous reflection, stood before me, its red eyes burning into my soul, its form shifting and contorting, its voice a seductive whisper that promised power and freedom. But I knew that it was a lie, a deception, a trap that was designed to consume me. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the frantic beating of my heart, and I focused on the black, glassy rock in my hand, channeling its energy, using it as a conduit to connect with the source of my own strength. And I realized that the rock was not just an object. It was also a part of me, a symbol of my own resilience, of my own courage, and of my own capacity for love. And I knew that in order to stop the monster, I had to embrace it, and I had to forgive it. It was a spiritual battle, and not a physical one. I stepped forward towards the creature, not with fear, not with anger, but with a newfound sense of acceptance, with a profound understanding that the monster was not an external force, but a reflection of my own inner turmoil, a manifestation of my own fears, of my own doubts. And as I approached it, I realized that I had been running from the wrong monster, and that my real battle was not to defeat the darkness, but to understand it, to accept it, and to integrate it into the totality of myself. And that I had to fight for the side of the light. The creature started to recoil, its form flickering, its power diminishing, as if it was afraid of the love that I was now radiating, of the compassion that was now flowing through me, of the strength that I had discovered within my own soul. Its voice grew weaker, less menacing, and it started to plead, to beg me, to give into its darkness, to embrace its twisted reality. But I refused to listen. My mind focused on my purpose, my will set on breaking free from the cycle of terror. And I also understood that if I gave in, the darkness would not just consume me, it would consume everyone. It was not just my fight anymore. I closed my eyes, and I focused my energy not to resist the darkness, but to embrace it, to transform it, to transmute it into light. And as I did, the black, glassy rock in my hand began to pulse with a bright, white light, a force of pure energy that seemed to penetrate every corner of the clearing, that seemed to illuminate the very fabric of reality. And in that light, I saw the true nature of the entity. I understood its pain, its despair, its loneliness, and I felt a profound sense of compassion, a deep desire to heal its wounds, to bring it back from the darkness. I did not have to destroy it, to conquer it, or to defeat it. I had to understand it, to accept it, and to forgive it. And in that, I found my true power. It was then that I understood that the biggest battle is the battle against our own demons. And I had just won. I opened my eyes, and I saw that the monstrous reflection was fading, its form dissolving into nothingness, its darkness transforming into light, and the clearing around me started to shift and change, becoming a place of peace, of tranquility, of serene beauty, bathed in a soft golden light. And I realized that my journey was not over, but it was now changing into something new, something different. And I was now ready for the challenge. I was now ready to face the future. I finally understood that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to face it head on, to embrace the darkness that was within, and to choose to follow the light. I had been trapped in the cycle of terror, yes, but I had also found a way to break free, not by escaping the darkness, but by accepting it, by understanding it, and by using it to empower myself. I was no longer just a park ranger. I was now a warrior, a healer, a traveler between realities, and a force that was capable of bending the very fabric of time and space. And as I faced the entity, I knew that I was ready to claim my own destiny, and that I was ready to embrace whatever fate had in store for me. I had faced the wilderness, and now I had found my own path, and that path was within myself. And in that understanding, I found my power. And as I stared at them, I realized that they were all connected, that they were all part of the same pattern, that I had always been destined to face the darkness that was now calling to me. And I also knew that there was no going back. The black, glassy rock in my hand pulsed again, its light growing stronger, and I felt a surge of energy coursing through my veins, a strange, powerful sensation that was both terrifying and exhilarating. I closed my eyes, trying to control the overwhelming flood of emotions that was threatening to consume me, and I focused on the feeling of the rock in my hand, trying to find some sort of comfort, some sort of guidance. The whispers in my mind grew louder, now forming words, sentences, a distorted monologue that was both alluring and menacing, that was trying to convince me to give in, to surrender to the darkness, to embrace my destiny. But I knew that I had to resist, that I had to fight, not just for myself, but also for the hikers that had disappeared, for the world that I had once sought to protect. And I also understood that the entity was not just trying to lure me. It was trying to break me, and it was trying to make me become its own self. I opened my eyes, and I started to move towards the circle of stones, my steps slow and deliberate, my hand still gripping the rock, my senses heightened to an almost unbearable degree. I could feel the presence of the entity growing stronger with every step that I took, its energy permeating my very being, its influence pulling me towards the center of its power. The ground beneath me started to vibrate, the trees around me started to sway, and the shadows seemed to stretch and contort, as if the very fabric of reality was starting to unravel. And the more I focused on the center of the clearing, the more I started to feel that there was no way out, that I was trapped in a cage that I had created for myself, and that my end was near. As I reached the circle of stones, I saw that the symbols on their surfaces were now glowing, their light reflecting in my eyes, the reflections creating a sense of disorientation, a feeling that I was no longer in control of my vision, as if I was seeing the world through a distorted lens. I could see myself in each of those stones, different versions of my life, different aspects of my soul, and as I stared at them, I realized that the entity was using them to manipulate me, to control me, to pull me deeper into its web. It was playing with my own fears, with my own insecurities, and it was using my own life as a weapon against me. And that realization made me angry, very angry. I tightened my grip on the rock, and I focused all of my energy, all of my will, all of my determination. And I started to resist the pull of the entity, to fight against its influence, to reclaim my own destiny, not as a cartographer, not as an explorer, not as a victim, but as a warrior, a soldier, a protector, a force that was willing to face the darkness head on. My body trembled, my lungs burned, and my heart pounded, but I refused to give in. I was no longer just Finnegan O'Malley. I was now a symbol of resistance, a beacon of light in the heart of the darkness, and I was ready to fight until my last breath. The choice was made. I would not let it win. The whispers in my mind turned into a scream, a distorted, guttural roar that seemed to shatter the very fabric of reality, and the shadowy figures around me started to coalesce, to take on a more defined form, as if the entity was now manifesting its presence, revealing its true nature. The game was over, and the battle was about to begin, and my very soul was now the battleground. I would not let it claim me. I would not give into its influence. And I would do everything in my power to face this impossible foe. The monstrous reflection of myself started to move, its form shifting and changing, its features contorting into a grotesque mask, and its voice grew louder, more menacing, its words a chorus of threats and promises. "You cannot defeat me," it hissed, its voice a distorted echo of my own. "I am the darkness that dwells within you, the fear that consumes your soul, the doubt that weakens your will. You are mine, Finnegan O'Malley, and you will forever be trapped in this nightmare." But I was no longer listening to its lies. I had embraced my own truth, and I was now ready to face its challenge. I stepped forward towards the monstrous reflection, my hand gripping the black, glassy rock, my body trembling with the force of the energy that was flowing through me. My mind focused on my purpose, and as I moved, the entity seemed to recoil, as if it was afraid of the light that was emanating from me, as if it was sensing the strength that was now burning within my soul. It was no longer a place of fear, no longer a source of dread. It was now a sanctuary, a testament to the power of magic, a symbol of the resilience of the human spirit. And I knew that I had been changed by that place, that I was no longer just a park ranger. I was now a guardian of its secrets, a protector of its soul. My purpose was now clear, the long-term consequences of my actions were unknown. I had faced my own darkness, I had conquered my own demons, and I had broken free from the cycle of terror, but I did not know what the future held. I did not know if the entity was truly gone, or if it was just lurking in the shadows, waiting for another opportunity to return. But I knew that I had to remain vigilant, that I had to protect the wilderness from the forces of the unknown, and that I had to teach others to confront their own fears, to embrace the light that was within, and to never give in to despair. And I also knew that I had changed, and the old Cal, the man that had always loved the wilderness, was no longer here. I tried to return to my life as a park ranger, to my duty of protecting the natural world, to my love of the forest, but my perspective was now completely altered. I was now seeing the world through a new lens, a lens that was aware of the hidden dimensions, of the mysteries that lurked beneath the surface of reality, of the magic that was woven into the very fabric of the universe. My work as a protector was now about more than just the physical world. It was also about safeguarding the spiritual, about preserving the balance of time and nature. The wilderness, to me, had become a living entity, a sentient being that I had to protect. I decided to leave Yellowstone, to seek a new path, a different purpose for my life. I could no longer pretend that I had not seen what I had seen, that I had not experienced what I had experienced, and I could no longer ignore the responsibility that had been placed upon me. The world was now different, and my mission was to protect it. I was now a warrior, seeking to protect the world from the unknown, but also seeking to understand it. And I would never be the same again. I knew that the hikers that had disappeared were now lost in the darkness of that other reality, that their souls had been consumed by the entity, and that their stories would never be told. But I hoped that my actions had somehow broken the cycle, that I had somehow prevented the darkness from claiming any more victims. It was a desperate hope, yes, but it was the only thing that was keeping me moving forward. And I knew that if I had fallen, so many others would have too. It was my responsibility now to save others from my fate. My journey had taken me to the depths of my own soul, and I had emerged from that darkness a changed man, stronger, wiser, more resilient, but also deeply marked by the pain of what I had witnessed. And in the end, I realized that my love for the wilderness was still there, but it was now tinged with a sense of responsibility, a need to protect its secrets, to safeguard its magic, and to warn others of the darkness that was hidden within its embrace. I was a cartographer, yes, but my map was now bigger than any world I had ever charted. The wilderness had changed me, and I had, finally, learned how to be brave. My journey had been a painful one, but it was one that I had to face. And I was stronger because of it. I still carry the black, glassy rock with me, a reminder of the trail, of the clearing, of the darkness that I had faced, and of the darkness that still lurks in the world, and the darkness that will always be a part of me. I still feel the pull of Yellowstone, the call of the wilderness, but now I know that the real adventure is not about exploring the world around me. It's about understanding the mysteries that are hidden within my own soul. I do not map trails anymore. I map souls. And that is the greatest discovery of all. I still work as a park ranger in the Pacific Northwest, and I still carry the black, glassy rock with me, a reminder of the darkness that I had faced and of the light that I had chosen to embrace. I have never seen the creature again, nor do I expect that to happen. But I still feel its presence in the shadows, in the quiet corners of the wilderness, and I know that I will never truly be free from the terror that it represents. And I am now okay with it. I was broken, but now I am stronger than ever. This is my story, a glimpse into the darkness that exists beyond our understanding, and how the darkness lives inside of us. Have you ever faced your own demons? Have you ever encountered something that you couldn't explain? Share your story in the comments below. And if you were captivated by this journey, click on the next video, which will show you another glimpse of the strange and the bizarre, and see what other horrors are hidden beneath the veil of reality. And remember, the real wilderness is not out there. It's within us.